change. We'll cover today Block 2 of Organizational Development, that's Unit 5, Unit 6, and Unit 7. Let's understand what is organizational development. According to Dr. Uday Pare, it is a planned effort which is initiated by process specialists to help an organization. It develops its diagnostic skills, coping capabilities, linkage strategies in form of temporary and semi-permanent system, and finally, it is a culture of mutuality. Next definition is given by National Training Laboratories USA. Organizational development is using knowledge and techniques from the behavioral sciences. OD attempts to integrate individual needs for growth and development and organizational goals and objectives in order to make more effective organization. So overall, when we say organizational development, it is not only about the process of development of an organization. It is also serves as a diagnostic tool. It's used to cope up the capabilities of the employees on the basis of their individual needs, and which is aligned with the development of the organizational goals as well. There are many models of organizational development. Let's talk about the major three models of organizational development. First is Lewin change model. That says there are three steps which mention the unfreezing, movement, and refreezing. Unfreezing refers to when we, restructure, when we are in a process of restructuring something, we bifurcate the things, we really get into the in-depth analysis. Then the movement stage, the change happens not only the diagnosis, but also the planning, the process, the aligning of system. And refreezing refers to when we finalize the process or finalize the strategies. Second model is planning model or scouting. Here the stages are one, it's entry, then we diagnose, then we plan, we take the action, we stabilize that action, we evaluate, and finally we terminate the process and move on to the further projects. Finally, it is action research model, which is very much used by the modern organization. Here, the problem identification is the major step in the initial stages. Then they invite the behavioral experts, those who are from the behavioral sciences. Then the data is gathered on the basis of preliminary diagnosis through the different tools of the interviews or the observation or the feedback surveys. Then the feedback to the groups is given by the organization. Joint diagnosis of problem is taken when everybody is in participative mode, and they are, the suggestions are always welcome in this approach. Then the action is taken, and finally the data gathered, after the action as well for the, post-evaluation, post-action evaluation. There are different stages in organizational development. The first stage is initiating stage. Then is diagnosis. Then is planning and design of interventions, carrying out the plan and making interventions, evaluating results, and finally the termination and going for the next project or next phase. After termination, the feedback is given on the basis of the employees, whatever the action has taken on specific strategy or specific change which is need to be happen. Then again, it goes into the initial stage. Let's understand in detail about the stages of organizational development. First stage is to take the initiative. When we are talking about initiation stage, it is the understanding of the first step of OD efforts. Here, the main there are few parameters which is keep in mind. First, there should be feeling of need. OD is initiated when top management perceive that there is a need for change, or there is a change, there is a need of development. There are certain triggers for need. First can be organizational crisis. That depends on the whatever be the problem or whatever be the diagnosis we do. For example, if there is an equality issue, this is one of the major organizational crisis. Then the change is required or the development is required further. Maybe if the planning to plan for the future challenges. In a rapid technological changes these days, there are a lot of planning and is required beforehand to survive along with the competitors. Observing competitors' success and strategic turnaround or growth plan. So these are few of the triggers of need where an organization really feel that there is need to change or need to do the development part of an organization level. Then the next sub stage of this phase is they invite the consultants. Consultants can be the internal experts or maybe the OD consultant from outside. They has to be expert in the behavioral sciences or maybe the organizational psychologist or maybe the experts in that particular process or the product line of the same industry. After inviting them, it is very much required to identify and clarifying the needs because the needs can be multiple also. So the consultants interact with the top management and CEO of the company to find out the exact need or to find out the actual need of or to find out the actual diagnosis. So there are different methods to clarify the need. One can be environment analysis, which can be done on the basis of internal factors and external factors of the company. Then is SWOT analysis and scenario building to find out what are the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats of an organization. And further, the situation or the scenario is built up to find out the best of the analysis. Then is developing mission, visions, values, and strategies. Benchmarking and success stories. There are a lot of success stories within the organization to not only to motivate but also to strategize further to set the benchmark of an organization or the employees to move further with that. Then the CEO must truly feel the need to proceed. Then only after identifying and clarifying the exact need, one can really move with the correct strategies further. Finally, after identifying, exploring the readiness of change is very much required, which assess the willingness before starting organizational development process. The techniques which are used is observing senior management in workshops and meetings. Questionnaires are one of the major instruments which is used for to find out whether the employees of an organization or organization itself is ready for the change. And finally, to formulate contract. After finalizing the readiness of change, the contract is made. That is an MOU between between the two parties, maybe the person who are involved in the development process, or maybe when the two organizations are merging together and they are moving further. That depends. Second phase is diagnostic phase in organizational development after the contract has been made. Diagnosis is all about the understanding the process of assessing the organizational functioning and identifying areas of improvement. Problem identification is preliminary in the diagnostic stage where it involves the reviewing reports, grievances, industrial relations data, and discussions with management and employees. Identification of organizational need comes after the problem identification is done. Here, the organization determines if organizational development interventions are required or not. Then is identification of areas in in-depth analysis, where the focus is on critical areas identified from preliminary diagnosis, and to avoid attempting too many problems at once. Because it is seen that in organizations sometimes there are a lot of problems and it messed up all the things. So it is very difficult to find out what is actual need and what kind of intervention is required. So in-depth diagnosis and in-depth analysis is very much required, which is a collaborative process between the consultant and the organizational members from top management to the lower management. Then during the diagnostic stage or during this analysis, the data is collected and the inferences are drawn for the to design the interventions. Here the system model works where the input comes in, the data comes in, or maybe the suggestions or the feedback comes in, and it processes and further the output and the outcome derives from the processes and the input the organization get, and the feedback is given on the basis of the output, and finally the outcome is derived from the entire process. Then is designing of data collection and survey. There are a lot of methods. The major methods are questionnaires, interviews, and observations. It is seen that the organization used the mixed method approach here to collect the data and the content or to process the data. They use the validated instruments and statistical sampling. Analysis and making inferences is either on qualitative base or on quantitative base. When we say quantitative, it is all about the frequency diagrams, scatter diagrams, run charts, correlation and regression analysis, whereas the qualitative analysis is inclined towards the force field. The statistical analysis is done on force field analysis, fishbone diagram, affinity diagram, YY diagram, and how-how diagram. Then this diagnosis after collection of and the analysis of data is shared. The data and inferences are shared with the organization through the survey feedback, and the feedback is collected from the organizational, the people who are the employees who are involved in the development process. Further, after designing, the planning and design of intervention is required, where the structured activities for individuals, groups, or organizational units are used. The main goal is organizational improvement. The focus is individuals, diets or tribes, teams, or total, in fact, the overall total organization. There are a number of interventions. The main interventions are from a strategic point of view, where the cultural change is required, self-designing organization are there, open system planning is there, transformational organizational development is there, and it inclined towards the strategic change. Techno-structural intervention is required when there is differentiation and integration is there, work design is implemented, and the quality of work life is seen. Then there are HR and process kind of interventions, where it is towards the goal setting, the rewards, recognitions and rewards, career planning, stress management, team building, survey feedback, organizational confrontation, and intergroup relationships. After planning and designing of intervention, carrying out the plan is very important. It is all about making the interventions. It is about the preparing of team, which forms from multidisciplinary resource team and skilled in OD facilitation. Conducting of activities is again very challenging and very important, because after designing, how to execute that particular design is equally important as the planning is important. It is all about the implementing the planned interventions, addressing the resistance, document experiences, and maintaining the regular interaction. Then is evaluation part. After execution, after implementation of the design activities of the interventions, evaluation is done either on a mid-course evaluation is done, which is a periodic review or periodic check is done if the whether the interventions are effective, redesign is needed or not required. Evaluating the result is a final evaluation which uses a predefined criteria. It compares the actual and the planned results on the basis of the outcome-based approach. Interviews, surveys, and workshops are used for evaluation of the results. Finally, is the termination. Termination here refers to when the planned organizational development process is end after achieving the results or after the final outcome, and it repeats the organizational development cycle in the next phase if it is required. So overall, when we see the stages, it starts with the initiating the process, then finally to the termination of the process. So, after the stages, it is seen that there are certain essentials for successful organizational development. First is perception of organizational problems by top management and key persons. Key persons are CEOs and top management, where their primary accountability is profit, primary responsibility of organizational development, and creating the organization culture overall. The belief in applied behavioral science profession, because unless it is not the experts or the strategic people doesn't have a belief on applied behavioral sciences, it is not possible to implement the correct and the suitable organizational interventions. Willingness to invite the qualified OD consultant. This is again challenge and which is very essential, where the expert need to be there for the organizational, for the entire organizational development process. Active involvement and support of top management is very much required. Willingness to do action research, where it starts with the conceptualization, implementation, and finally the evaluation of the entire process. And patience is waiting for result, which is most essential part, because organizational development is a long-term process. Sometimes it takes months. So, in the initial stages, it is seen that the organizational strategic team and the top management really want the change or the development within a shorter period of time, which is sometimes not possible. So they need to wait. They should have patience to wait for the final results. Then awareness of behavioral process, which emphasize on process improvement. It is required to create a occupace climate, which was given by Dr. Uday Parekh in 2002, which refers to the openness, confrontation, trust, authenticity, proaction, autonomy, collaboration, and experimentation. Training and development are very, very important for the success of successful organizational development. Involvement of line and HR managers are required, where the HR policies are concurrent with OD philosophies. Identification and development of internal resource persons who are the facilitators also of the organizational development process. Next, essential factor is willingness. Willingness to change and continuous improvement is the key of success of any organizational development process. Focus on climate and scientific interventions, and continuity and voluntary participation is very much required for the success of organizational development program of an employees. Let's see what are the organizational development interventions. These are the set of structured activities in which selected organizational units, individuals, or groups engage with a task or sequence of tasks where the task goals are related directly or either indirectly to organizational improvement. Interventions make things happen and are what's happening. It is what's happening is given by Wendell L. French and Bell in 1983. It is mainly focused on whether the interventions gives us a clear picture what is happening within an organization and how the things are happening and how we can be able to make the things happen. So overall, when we say interventions, it are defined as a behavior which affects the ongoing social process of the system. There are many OD interventions which relates with the cultural interventions, theory intervention, discrepancy interventions, delinea interventions, procedural intervention, interventions, relationship, perspective, and organizational structural interventions. So let's really understand the further details about all these interventions. Let's see what is theory interventions, which is given by some of the theory interventions are given by Blake and Monton. When we say theory intervention, it is used of the conceptual knowledge on the application based, which is applied behavioral science concepts. It explains the behavior and underlying the assumptions. It not only provides the background for understanding behavioral process, but also help to build the base for the further change or further development process. Next is discrepancy intervention. Discrepancy intervention is focused on contradictions whenever there are contradictions or conflicts between the groups or between the individuals on the basis of behavior and attitudes. It highlights the discrepancies to guide the attentions. Then is structural intervention. Structural interventions are the critical appraisals of systems and procedures. It examines whether best method or systems are in use or not, because that is very much required during the entire process, because examination is very to find out the best methodology and the best system is very much required to move further with the entire process. Then is relationship interventions. Relationship interventions relates with the analysis of personal relationships, develops ways to create conducive relationships among the individuals, groups, teams, or maybe within an organization. Experimentation and linear interventions. Experimentation refers to when some tests are applied and that test changes in small areas before the full implementation, like the pilot surveys or the pilot studies. Delinea intervention is like exploring the interventions and underlying, using all those delineas. The perspective intervention is a shift from immediate actions to historical context, the goals, and the future objectives. Structural and cultural intervention is all about relates with the organization structure, identifying structural causes of ineffectiveness, and the cultural intervention relates with examining the traditions, the practices, which brings the desired change within an organization. So overall, when we see all these interventions, which is given by Blake and Monton, the cultural it is equally important to set the base to the one can do through the theory interventions. Then if there is any conflict, discrepancy, delinea, procedural is all about the processes, experimentation when applied to the small groups, then before the final run. Relationship is all about between or maybe the intervention which is used to build up the relationship and to create the overall organizational environment and the culture within an organization, which is derived from the perspective intervention and the cultural, along with all these intervention, organizational structure is very important, whether the redesigning or designing of the organization structure is very important to to find out what is best as per the industry standards. So after all these interventions, let's see what are the three dimensions on this. First is consultants' action. Consultant action is all about accepting. They are catalytic, confrontation, prescription, and they believe in the teaching theory. Whereas the focal issues are more towards the power, the policies, norms, procedures, goals, objectives of an organization. And the targets of change can be individual, can be group, intergroup, organizational, or maybe the larger social system within the entire ecosystem of the organizations. Let's talk about and discuss on the focus phase classification. When we say focus phase, it can be on an individual or maybe group. It relates directly with the learning, the capabilities, the capacities, the skill building and insight of not only the individual but also the overall the team or the group. Whereas the task process is based on what is done and how it is done about the process. So the task process classification is focusedly on the task and the process, whereas the individual group classification is for the employees for their learning insights, their skill building, their upskilling, and their their own perceptions towards the organization or maybe the culture building. There are certain HR, technical, structural, and socio-technical interventions as well. So when we say HR interventions, that relates directly about the HR processes, that revolves around the HR processes and the system. That can be role analysis, T group, training and development, job enrichment, and grid opening. Whereas the techno-structural and socio-technical interventions is focused on the systems and the processes which are where the interventions is required due to the changes within an industry and within an ecosystem to survive along with the competitors. There are certain human process interventions as well, which are known to be as survey feedback, process consultation, confrontation meetings, organizational mentoring, team building, T group training, and role analysis. Because when we talk about the interventions, the human resources are actually involved in all the interventions, and they create the development process, they create the change within an organization. So it is very important to find out the best of the interventions on the human process. So let's see in detail about this human resource interventions. Before that, let's see what are the survey feedbacks. Survey feedback, there are different steps which is followed in the survey feedback. This is first, it is required that there is a need for change, there is a need of development. Then deciding about the objectives and scopes, selection of instrument, it can be questionnaire, it can be interviews, it can be group discussions, it can be survey, on the survey feedback, it can be on the observation. So selection of instrument has to be very correct. Data collection methodology can be, it depends on how we are collecting the data. Whether it is today, since we are into the digital era, so most of the data collection methodology can be done online also through digital forms. Scoring and summary of finding has to be valid. So, do it very cautiously, because the selection of instrument, the instrument which we selected, that has to be reliable and valid. On the basis of that, scoring and summary of the finding or the interpretation has done. The norm analysis can be pre-decided on the basis of the instruments or basis of the findings that can be strong, for example, or weak, or maybe not so strong norms. There is presentation of the feedback with the employees or sharing the feedback with the employees or the people who are involved in the development process. There is action planning and follow-up is very much required before going further with the concluding remarks or maybe finalizing the project. There is process consultation, which is given by Shane. It is a set of activities by the consultant to help the client whether to perceive, understand, or act upon the process events in their environment. The focus on enabling clients to diagnose problems and develop their own solutions. The key features are consultants does not provide direct solutions. They emphasize on behavioral processes, facilitates the client's self-solving abilities, and focus on group functioning and process improvement. There are many different characteristics and different features on that, which is the facilitation of communication, the free and frank exchange should be there. Enhancing clients' problem-solving abilities has to be there. Building process-based relationship should be there, and developing the open and authentic relationship with the clients. The focus area of the organizational process is revolves around the communication, leadership, group norms, problem solving, and roles and functions of the employees. There are different types of interventions which is involved in the process consultation. That is enhancing the type, how to enhance the group sensitivity to process diagnosis, analysis, and the diagnosis consultation is there. Feedback sessions are there. Because when we talk about the consultation, it is not only about giving the feedback, it is also about taking the feedback and to work on, after the feedback or the post feedback sessions can be arranged. Helping individuals and group to observe and process the data. Coaching and counseling, structural interventions which relates with the job allocation and the goal changes. There is confrontation meetings are this is also a type of intervention which is mainly focused on problem identification and solution. Whenever there is a conflict, whenever there is a conflict between the individuals or groups or intergroup or within an organization or within the system, it happens to be due to some disagreement. It is very much required to find out the exact problem and simultaneously the solution of that problem. The purpose is mainly to identify and prioritize the organizational problems, which actually begins with working on solutions collectively. And this confrontation meetings intervention is developed by Deckard. There are different steps which is involved in confrontation meetings. First is convene meetings. Second step is prepare the participants, because it is seen that whenever there is a conflict or there is a conflict between or maybe disagreement between the employees or the groups or the teams, they are not ready to sit across the table or sit in the same room to to move out further with the solutions. So it is very important to convince them to come together to involve in the confrontation meetings to find out the best solution. Step 3 is small group works. Step 4 is to present the problem. After identifying the problem should be presented to the confronted teams. Fifth one is prioritizing that problem. And next step is to select the problem for action. So next step is to, after the action, the solution has to be developed. The after the discussion on the problems and what all actions are required, and finally the present and review of those solutions to move further with the process or with the intervention process. Next is organizational mirroring. Organizational mirroring is again very important intervention which is used by the selected departments, or maybe depends on the selected functional area of an organization, to collect the perception of other relevant sections of the organization. The main for the aim, the objective of this organizational mirroring intervention is to improve its performance, image, and relationship with other sections. So the purpose of intervention is to assess the participants of corporate personnel department by internal customers, to improve it improves the performance and satisfaction of internal clients, and it also strengthens interdepartmental and interfunctional relationship among the employees. The stakeholders involved are the facilitators, that can be the internal consultants, the clients, that can be corporate finance or personnel department of major units or sites, or if it is a manufacturing unit, then it can be the shop floor people or the production department, training department, trade union representatives. It is seen while processing this organizational meeting, 2 or 3 representative from each group is nominated, and they come in front to initiate this intervention to collect the perception of the relevant sections. So the pre-workshop preparation is very much required. The consultants need to interview representatives from all the groups, collection of data on exceptions from corporate personnel, and the perception has to be positive or negative. So that has to be very clear, and it has to be done on in a very proper manner, so that the correct data can be collected. The workshop process after the preparation, the workshop process carries on with different steps, where all the head of the corporate personnel are welcome. They ensure the openness and positive use of the feedback. They encourage the free and frank opinions. Step 2 refers to when the consultant is divided. They can divide the participant generally into 7 groups, where the task is given to discuss the perception of corporate personnel, whether what are the positive aspects, and find out the negative aspects as well. Then to host the group also reflected on their own performance. In step 3, the group sharing in the planned session. Corporate personnel sitting in the center, surrounded by other groups. Each group present their own. The clarifications are made and the points are recorded and reported. In step 4, the perception categorized into 3 themes. One is positive perception, negative perception, and the main expectations. Positive perception is all about the appreciations, or the negative perception is all about the flaws and the things which are not happening. And the main expectations is what are the expectations towards the organization. In further step, the participants are divided into 4 groups, identified, and then they are comes in the small groups, where they identify and prioritize areas of improvement. What can be the areas of improvement? So each group present their own recommendations. The core group identify key issues. They sit together, consciously build this is with the consent of all the participants, and the action plan is prepared for further implementation. So all these 6 steps were steps of the workshop process of organizational mirroring, where the stakeholders are actively involved in every stage. Next intervention is team building. It is well defined as team building is all about the team, the groups, where it helps, this intervention is used to help to work together in a collaborative manner for the common objective or the common goal of an organization. The main focus is on the task aspect and the people aspect. Aspect is all about the goals, what is to be achieved, whereas people aspect is all about the relationship, how the members are reacting, how they communicate, how they resolve the issues, what are how they are, how many of really coming further to resolve the conflicts. So the level of team focus is when it is on an internal, then it is intra-team task focus on the basis of the content, intra-team people focus basis on the process, inter-team task forces is within the organization when there are teams from different functional area or maybe the two teams altogether. Inter-team people focus is within an organization only, but when it is on an external part. So inter-team work task force is with the teams outside the organization as well, and the inter-team people focus is with teams outside the organization. So when we talk about the internal processes all about relates with what is happening within an organization, whether it is intra-team or inter-team. Whereas the external team focus level of this is all about what, for example, inter-team focus, task focus is with the teams outside the organization, where the team building interventions is done. What are the other organizations or maybe the other, the sister concern of an organization or maybe the other regional offices are doing within for the best to achieve the goal in a best manner. It can be also relates with to find out the best of the solution by comparing the external teams as well. Not only the goal purpose, but also how the people are behaving, how they are communicating, how they are taking the initiatives, how they are resolving the conflicts, not only within an organization, but also outside the organization. So there are different approaches of the team building. One is content-based approach, process-based approach, and mixed approach. Content-based approach is mainly about the conceptual, about the task, about the norms, and the process-based approach is how the things has been done, what are the actions, what are the implementation process has taken, and the mixed approach is combination of content-based and process approach based approach along with the task and people-based approach as well. The choice depends on the diagnostic of what is the issue or what is the problem which is identified, the theme of the program, and the competence of the facilitator. Here, facilitator plays a very important role because there it is not only about implementation of that particular intervention, but also to simplify that problem and to reach the people within an organization after doing the in-depth, not only the analysis but also the festivation technique has to be correct to find out the best solution within an organization. Then there is problem solving approach, which is very important when we talk about, because everybody really look on whether the problems are related with the content, with the task, within an organization, within the system, within the people. So it is used when teams face difficult problems, because whenever there are problems, irrespective of any area or maybe on an people-based problems or task-based problems, or there's a problem in achieving the goals. So it is very important whenever team is facing all these issues, when they are not finding out the solutions out of it. So the design depends on nature of problem and team dynamics, how the team really react and take the action on that particular problem which is identified. Next intervention is T group intervention. T group training is also called as sensitivity training. It is it is made of a small and very unstructured group of 10 to 12 participants only, which is facilitated by a trainer, where the participant learn through interactions, feedbacks, and group dynamic. It is more of experiential learning rather than of lectures or discussions. The focus is mainly on to discover the strength, the style, and the interpersonal behavior among the teams or among the group or the people who all are the participants. Understanding how one is perceived by others. It improves self-awareness and group functioning. So overall, when we say about finding out the best of the strength and to find out to discover the interpersonal behaviors or understanding or perception about each other, and it is more inclined towards a self-evaluation and self-discovery, self-awareness, and overall group functioning. So the learning process in T group is more of self-discovery. It is experiential learning, where there is no fixed agenda overall. But yes, the group involves its own agendas, and the functions are works like a laboratories. So it is also known as laboratory training, where the learning cycle starts with the experience of the participants. They reflect, they hypothesize, and they experiment on those hypotheses or the assumptions they generate, and finally they conceptualize the final solutions. The emphasis is more on expressing oneself, more of finding out what is best and what are the weaknesses, and increasing the personal and interpersonal effectiveness among the employees. Mainly, there are two parts of the T group training. One is interpersonal focus, which is deeper self-understanding and personal growth, and the group focus, which is exploring the group dynamics, relationships, and team building. There are different levels which benefits. On an individual level, it reduces stress, higher self-awareness is there, improved self-esteem is seen, better decision-making is seen, and adaptability to change is also seen in this. But when we talk about the interpersonal, about the people who come together as a participant, it is all it is seen that better communication, there is increase in communication, openness, and trust. It reduces the conflict within the employees. Stronger teamwork, collaborative teamwork, and constructive feedback exchanges seen. On an organizational level, overall, when there is better communication, trust, openness, no stress, high self-aware employees, so definitely it creates a positive climate and positive culture within an organization. It also increases the innovative. The employees comes with the innovative feedbacks. They share the ideas, and effective leadership is seen, and higher exchange of ideas, and they are higher change in. They are ready for the changes, whatever is happening, and the collaborative environment creates on an organizational level, which definitely gives a positive impact on overall organization. Now, let's see what are the role analysis. It is a technique of clarifying and prioritizing expectations of significant role senders and role holders. The role is all about the pattern of behavior expected by others from a person in position. So role holder is a person who occupies the role, and role senders are the people who hold the expectation from the role holder. So Dr. Parekh and Dr. KVS Rao gave classification on role analysis as task is the basic element of the job. A job is the module of work which is assigned to them. Work is the productive activities, position is point of organizational structure, role is expectation by self and others from that particular position. So role analysis, when we see the block, this is a block diagram where the decision to carry out role analysis constitute the core task force. Then the selection of persons in the position for the role analysis has been done, and again the constitution of that specific task forces are done. It further, we identify the role sender. After the role sender, there is a collection of role expectations and preparation summary, which further goes to identifying the KPIs or the KRAs of that particular role. And after identifying the KRAs, identification of the competencies are required for that role. After finding out the identification of the competencies, identification of gaps in capabilities are identified, and finally, a plan and activities for the development. So this is how the role analysis is worked. So role analysis mainly helps in understanding expectations of role senders, aligning personal qualities with organizational demands, reducing ambiguity in role conflict, and enhance the effectiveness and satisfaction. When we say apart from role analysis, which is within an organization, so organizational analysis is equally important, which is the first step and first comprehensive towards the organizational diagnosis. The organization is known to be as a subparts of the coordinated functions within an organization. Effectiveness depends on both individual, subsystems, performance, and integration of all the subsystems or the functional areas. So diagnosis must examine the strength, weakness, and potential of all the subsystems, processes that ensures effective functioning of the whole organization. And Vickert mentioned that strategy for improvement requires analysis of present state. So there are different areas of diagnosis on the basis of subsystems, which is the top teams of top management, production, R&D, or even at the different levels, top, middle, and lower, or the workforce level. Then the area of diagnosis can be done on the process level, which is based on decision making, communication, conflict management, relationship, goal setting, and planning. So the overall diagnosis may focus on structure, processes, interaction, and functioning, where the OD interventions, the systematic organization improvement is done. The purpose for this is it helps in education and research purpose, planning for growth and diversification, improving the organizational effectiveness, organizational problem solving. There are all these four purposes are not only to enhance the understanding of organizational functioning, but also provides an insight of the structure, people, systems, styles, and technology, and leads to the action for new systems or better communication, restructuring, reducing pay, sustainability, motivating employees, and also enables the corrective actions for restoring the effectiveness. The perspectives used for analysis of organization can be economics, political, perspective sociology, social psychology, perspective, management perspective, and applied behavioral science and OD perspective. Let's see what are the methods of organizational analysis. That can be observations, through interviews, through questionnaires, through analysis of records, appraisal reports, organizational past literature, task force and task groups, problem identification or problem solving workshops, seminars, or recording the examining critical events or past events happened within an organization. Practical perspective of organizational analysis revolves around the raw materials, technological inputs, machines, financial resources, and how to deliver the articles. So raw material here it is all about the human resource or the people of an organization. The major elements of organization, it is all about the mission and vision of an organization, which defines the corporate strategy, processes, systems, peoples, technology. The organizational analysis factors are the performance management system, performance measures, standards used by organizations to ensure desirable level of efficiency and performance. Balance scorecard is very important instrument in one such mechanism, where the budgetary and financial control procedures are included. Organizational design and structure is used, staffing levels and activity levels. The OD exercises or the organizational development exercises or the interventions are role analysis, TQMs, quality management, quality circles, re-engineering, large-scale systems change, management by objectives, team buildings, T groups, work redesigning, job enrichment, survey research and feedback, third-party interventions, quality of work, live projects, grid training, and action research. So the area of analysis, when we say action research, it relates to the systematic data collection, feedback, joint action for improvement, where the surveys, feedback sessions, and iterative planning is used. Organizational structure analysis is done. It is the purpose behind is to assess the appropriateness of structure to mission or strategy, where the techniques and tools are used for as an organizational charts or role analysis or inter-accountability matrix. Whereas the organizational design criteria is used to test the structure against the strategic criteria, and the ranking and the weighing criteria is used. Hay worksheets are used. Job analysis is all about clarifying the roles and accountability and whether it is seen, whether the jobs are overlaying or not, overlapping or not. The job descriptions or vertical and horizontal task reviews are used to do this analysis. Process analysis is to ensure cross-functional process support goals. The techniques and the tools used are business processes, re-engineering, and activity profiling. Further, the benchmarking is used to compare the practices with peers with competitive edge. Zero-based budgeting is to justify all expenses from ground up. Work measurement is used to assess the efficiency of task and job, with the time study and the productivity metrics are used. Communication analysis is done. The purpose of doing this analysis is to review the effectiveness of formal and informal communication, where the sociograms or interaction mapping is used. People analysis is used. The main purpose is to assess the HR capacity and the fitment. Here, the psychometric tests are used. Assessment centers are used during to do the people analysis. Right sizing analysis is used. The purpose is to determine optimum staffing levels. But for understanding the employee climate and culture, attitude surveys are done, culture analysis is done. But the holistic assessment of organizational health and alignment, 7S framework is used, which is given by McKinsey, with the hard S and soft S, which revolves around the shared values, strategy, structure, system, style, and staff and skills. So, organizational diagnostic tools are mainly questionnaire, interviews, and workshops. The questionnaire are mainly used to diagnose multiple organizational dimensions effectively, whereas interviews gather in-depth insights and explore complex or soft variables. The workshops are used to find out the team diagnostic participative problem solving. Task force or the internal teams are used to diagnose the specific issues, oversee change initiatives, whereas the management centers are used to evaluate the management potential and decision making, where the simulation exercises are done, in-basket exercises are done, leadership group tasks, discussions, or the management games, presentation, tests, and interviews. These are also known as MVPs. Observational Methods are used to diagnose the observable behavior, process, and norms, which can be done on site, observational work, routines, meetings, and team documentation, or maybe the interactions. So, overall, when we say task forces or the internal teams, selected employees with defined terms of references are used. They include the senior and other staff within a time bound assignment. So overall, we have done the organizational diagnostic tools as mainly the 6 tools which is used to diagnose the organizational analysis on different areas, which is given in previous slide, from action research to organization structure or quality circle assessments or MBOs or team management, organizational design criteria, job analysis, 7S framework, attitude, cultural analysis, and overall. So overall, we have done the OD interventions, the process analysis, the areas of analysis, purposes of that, and how to really go along to find out the best of the interventions for the organization and what are the steps of the organizational diagnosis, what procedures to be followed, how it has to be done, who are involved in that, who are the stakeholders of the organizational diagnosis. So it is very important to involve the organizational development experts or organizational psychologists, OD consultants or experts, not only to diagnose or plan, but also to facilitate the organizational development process. Thank you so much. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.